Let's see, where did that one go? It's not there. Where are you at? That's interesting. Good morning, good morning. There we go. Clear up. Why isn't that one loading? That's weird. There you are. There we go. Just getting all set up here, so we are ready to roll. That's right, you should be over here. Good morning, good morning. So just getting set up for my morning study session. So every morning, for the most part, I like to get up first thing and work on something newish to me. And so been doing a lot of stuff with Blender recently, and so I wanted to get into the sculpting aspect. So I've been working on this bust of horned toad or horny lizard, depending on how you want to say it. But basically, they're a species of lizard from the Southwest, mostly United States. They might go a little further south too. And body's about the size of your palm. But they have the, besides all the kind of the fancy spikes, they have another defense mechanism where they squirt blood out of their eyes, shoot you with blood. I'm not sure what that deterrent does, but it, works for them, I guess. So touching up kind of maybe the folds around the eyes today, especially. Probably go back and just do another pass on these folds in the neck. And then I want to re-topo it and apply that to a new model, get the details transferred over, and then work on bringing it to a close. So it's kind of what we're working on today. I guess I'll do this over here a little bit. So, all right. So let's look at these eyes. All right. Let's clean up these eyes. So yeah, but that's what we're working on today. So welcome to come and hang out, talk about the state of things, and that feels good. clean up this eyeball. Good morning. Let's knock that down. So that goes back. The eye's a little too large in there. We did replace it anyway, so maybe I'll do that real quick. So, yeah, not you. Object. Sphere. And let's get rid of the other eyeballs. All right. That's looking much better. Good morning. Sorry, just cleaning up these eyelids. Let's see. Grab silhouette. Good morning, good morning. It's Affy afternoon, I guess. Is that what Affy means? It's 9 o'clock in the morning here, so that's when I get up. Let's see. Back. Let's see there. Oh, well, welcome aboard. Always welcome. Studying anything interesting out there? Hands, huh? Hands are trouble. A fun fact, your palm is longer than any of your fingers. People don't often draw them that way. That could be a good thing to sculpt with your hands, right? Well, it's a lot of things in art, right? You can't, there's always something new. So, you know, it's, that's part of the, so, but that's, yeah, saying there's always like a new thing. So one of the reasons why AI is so annoying because it pretends to end the conversation. And like, why do you need to know this when you have this? And it's like, well, A, that thing doesn't look that good anyway, and B, why would I want to do that? Yeah, the eyeball's a separate thing. So maybe I'll squish some of this eye material back just so it's out of the way. Yeah, so there's a few things in here that are separate. Some of the horns are separate, like these ones right here. These ones all on here. Kept those separate. Um, I could probably merge them back in now, but I'm going to do it that way. But so yeah, that's the usual thing to do. And then we're just doing the head here. I'm probably going to put the scales on the neck after I do the retopology. I was doing them down here, and I realized, well, I'm probably better to wait until I do that. So I want to finish up on the eyes. My next one, I'll probably do another creature, another animal. I was thinking about maybe a mammal or something. I haven't decided. Um, maybe like a deer or an elk or something. Started an elk and ZBrush a long, long time ago. Never finished it, so I thought that might be interesting to do. But I haven't really decided yet. I kind of wish I hadn't started with something with scales, just because they take a while to get in there. But so That's what I'm thinking. I haven't decided, but it's getting close to being done with this one. You know, I want to do the retopology thing, and then I might try. I want to try the Uku paint on here as well for texturing. Kind of hand paint it. So that's what I'm thinking. I was doing a bunch of acrylic stuff earlier in the year. Yeah. Well, thanks. Appreciate that. Be a little sharper, but you know, considering you know the actual animal, like its head is like you know like that big. You know, if you look at my hand, maybe even smaller than that. You know, in real life. And yes, we're studying, seeing how things interlock and how they bulge out and the edges they have. So I always remember to save. I am on a computer, right? So that's always the difference. You know, if you're on an iPad, then you know it'll auto save for you. Uh-oh. What button did I hit here? I want to get out of orthographic view. Why is it snapping into that? What button did I press? What button did I press? It's locking into orthographic views. This? Did I hit you? Oh, great. What button did I press? It's like it's locked into orthographic. Oh, there it goes. I don't know how I did that. That was interesting. All right. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of buttons you can press in Blender, right? Like, what button did I hit? And then you have to like figure out the right way to ask the question if you need to look it up. Yeah, yeah. Because you'll switch to something and be like, wait, what did I? How did I get over here? Like, what's going on? It's like you know the mirror tool. I wish it would just default to um, world center, but it always is based off an object center, whether that's an empty or something else. And that took me a lot of getting used to because I was used to working off of like a world center. And I kind of get why they don't, but at the same time, I kind of wish that was the default. I'm not sure. There might be an action history, but it's fine now. I just let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure. There could be an action history. I just never thought about looking that up. I do wish it could handle the same level of polygons that ZBrush can, but or even like Nomad Sculpt does. Hi, Bosch. What's out the window, buddy? Yeah. Dog's checking in on me. Sleeping over on the side. That feels much better. Thing that's kind of off when Rob's eyes are larger. I'm wondering if I should, like the eyelids, not the eyeball, should be pushed back. That should be back there. Something like that. And then eyelids are thicker. infinite clay, right? Eyes. Set the origin back to the middle. Alright, back to the head. I think I can move that eye in a little bit more. Something like that. Alright. I can move that eye back a little bit more. Alright, silhouette brush. Let's see, pinch, we want to put that back in. Let's see. That's better. Good morning, good morning. There we go. That's much better. I think. Good morning. Welcome to my morning study session. Let's see. That over there. Let's see how that's going. Nice and slow. It'll take a moment to process, I think. I added a new hard drive into my computer. Thankfully, just before it went, well, it went up in price and then it went down. I think it's like secondary sellers are selling it for more, third parties or whatever. Um, Good morning over on YouTube. Welcome to my morning study. Just adjusting this eye. We can go forward a little bit. Good problem. That's something I need to learn is the weight painting thing, especially for scattering. So every morning I get up, for you here, and most every morning I'll get up, work on something new, and if it's worth, it's something you can kind of stream with, then I'll do that. So this would be one of those things, would be working on sculpting. So I've been going through the different tools and what I can do with them. I haven't gone into these fabric things yet. They don't really work for this. You're learning how to use EDM brushes. That one. I don't think that one for this guy. Among other things. So yeah, I've been working on this for the last couple weeks, and I spent an hour or hour and a half or so in the morning doing that. So it does take some time to kind of work through these things, but that's what we got going on. Let's see. Let's see music. There we go. Yeah. Picture on here. Sharpen up those rounded edges. So, yeah. Let's see. Smooth that out. The inflate brush, that's one of the more important brushes in any sculpting program. they kind of get you that form expansion, and using it kind of subtly will make things kind of pop up a little bit better. I think so. I remember in the early days of ZBrush, like people were really big into the rake brush. I don't even know if it exists anymore. Make this rake and kind of sculpt with it. You don't really see people use it anymore. I don't even know if it exists. ZBrush, but it was anymore. It used to be like the thing. I remember I took a online course with ZBrush a long time ago from I forget the guy's name off the top of my head right now. But it was like subscription thing was pretty expensive. It was like $45 a month, and it was actually somewhat hard to get rid of it. You had to like email them to cancel your subscription. He didn't like try to stop you or anything, but it was like some kind of weird thing where you couldn't like, just do it through the website. Which I guess it's a good way to create a little friction if you want to keep people from leaving. It was like 2010, 11, something like that. It was fine. You kind of built a zombie and whatnot with it. I don't know that mine was very good at the time, but kind of walked you through the tools with this project. The guy's still active. I just got his name off the top of my head. He lives in India now. He might be where he's like originally from. But sculpting and stuff like this was like there wasn't a class for this when I was a student, like at all. Like all of my professors were traditional illustrators, which I think is good actually. Um, book covers and magazine illustration, children's book was their focus. And we only had one teacher who was adjunct who was like into any of the digital stuff at the time. He actually wrote some books on it. Ran into some health problems years later and kind of shifted to being a teacher. But he was an art director at video game studios and concept artist and fine art painter. Don Siegmiller. But he used to be a lot more active online back then. But he was like my only. I had a different teacher do a digital class, but it was like a overview of Photoshop, kind of layering, photo manipulation kind of thing. Not a lot of detail with that. Illustrator and what's it called? Corel Painter. But yeah, there's definitely no digital sculpting back then. I bought ZBrush. I saved up for it as a student using my senior project. I had to kind of source my own, find tutorials. There's some YouTube stuff back then. YouTube's still new. There was a little bit there. I think that's where I learned stuff, maybe some people's websites or something. I know I have a book on creature sculpting, but I don't think I used it for that. I think that was a book I got later. But I do wish, you know, they could integrate something in the Blender to make it more ZBrushy when it comes to sculpting, in terms of like the number of polygons that it can comfortably handle. Especially with the cost of memory these days. Yeah, but I installed a new hard drive into my machine the other days before ordered it a couple weeks ago, actually. It still like costs a lot more than it would have a year before for that 12 terabytes. But the price is up now, so it was like $375 or something when I bought it. And anyway, I'm using it to store all of the teaching lessons. I'm keeping those on external hard drives. But I kind of went through it a lot this summer and kind of cleaned up some of my digital life. And been a long time subscriber to something called Carbonite. Which, if you're not familiar with, they're kind of a hard drive computer backup service. They've been around a long, long time. I first started using it when I had a hard drive crash as a student. I lost like a lot of stuff I was working on. Well, actually, it was after a student hard drive crash, but I lost a ton of stuff, and just a total hard drive failure. So I subscribed to them ever since. It's been like 20 years or something. I've been throwing money at them. It's like my Audible subscription. Started subscribing to Audible in 2004. And I'm still on their old pricing plan, which is nice. So I get two books a month for like 20 something bucks. And I kind of go through spurts of listening. But what's nice about the Carbonite thing, if I bring it up here, basically it backs up everything on your plus your internal hard drives, and it lives in their cloud service. It takes a while for it to do it. Like this, what I put up the other day will probably take a few weeks. But compared to like the scale of your drive that you can save and and its accessibility even online, like it's a lot cheaper than like a Google system or Dropbox. I actually replied my Dropbox too recently, just so I don't have to use as much of the Google for my own stuff. I just use the Google Drive for my school stuff, teaching stuff at the university. But yeah, I don't have any partnership with the Carbonite people, but I do recommend them for sure. I don't know anything about their company other than their service, but yeah, if you're ever worried about your stuff like accidentally deleting itself or hard drive failure, it's a good option to have. Make this a lot better. So I feel like the eyeball can be smaller. Well, thank you for the follow there. If you're online. But yeah, so I've got these two internal hard drives separate from the program and the what's it called, operating system drives. I did sleep better after that. So, losing your hard drive like that just it's like traumatic to a certain degree. It's like all this stuff I've been working on, and some of it hadn't. I backed stuff up to CDs back then or DVDs maybe by that point. Um, but still, it was pretty terrifying. Actually, the big thing I was working on back then, it's actually a 3D project when my computer crashed. When they released Halo, which I guess is apropos this week, um, it's rebuilt in Unreal. Um, they released Halo on the computer, Halo CE. I could have joined this community to learn 3D by making maps, fan-made maps for Halo. So I made a couple of them. First one was pretty rough, but I learned a lot doing it, which is how you learn. It was back in 2004 or 5. And then I was working on the second one came out much better, and painted all these nice textures. And, I do wish I'd made the map slightly larger than I ended up making it, but but it didn't really matter. It's always going to be a small kind of community of PC players there. But I was working on the third one, and it was funny because I had sent it around to people like in the community as I was working on it to get their feedback and all that. And so initially I wasn't really worried when my computer crashed because I had everything else I think backed up. But it turned out nobody had kept it. The kind of various versions I was working through. So I lost the whole map, and I was using textures from other maps, so I was able to recover, I think, most of those. But yeah, 100% lost the map. So yeah, so the next day, once I got a new hard drive in there and everything, I signed up for Carbonite and stuck with them ever since. But I hadn't updated them actually to this computer yet, and so it's still running off an old MacBook. And I really wasn't using it, so I kind of moved everything. I stream off the MacBook, actually, the old MacBook Pro that I have. So it's separate from this computer. But, so I still use it, but, I don't use it for anything beyond that. I call that my SCAD gift. I left SCAD, and I was let go from them a long time ago. Picked up that and this Cintiq. So, but so I cleaned that one off. I transferred my account over to this PC this summer and let it run in the background all summer long to get that hard drive transferred over there. So now all of my kind of major stuff on the initial hard drive is backed up comfortably there. And now we're working on this other stuff. So that makes me sleep better at night. Having all those backups in their place. So. And then my Dropbox, I actually have a larger Dropbox for free. It's like, I think I have 11 gigs on Dropbox, which is quite a lot. I think they give you 2 free or 1 free or something like But back when they were first launching, back in like 2010, they were like the only one that was like that. Like there wasn't Google Drive yet that schools all used. Like Google Drive, I basically have unlimited space through my university, which is nice, but I don't like where Google has gone with a lot of their stuff. So like one of the stories from earlier this summer, I think, was basically they were installing uh, their your AI system onto your computer, like 4 GB of data they would just install because you had Chrome installed. Which I don't like that. That's like, what is that? um, but yeah, among other things. So I try to use it as little as possible. I've dropped Adobe for the most part. I use it for finishing off a project that I started a while ago, but basically don't use Adobe beyond a couple things. They have a free video processing app on the phones, Premiere. It's not Premiere Pro; it's just called Premiere, and it's actually completely free. Like you don't actually have to sign in, but it's handy for processing time lapses and editing video together on your phone, which is what I use for reels and shorts and things like that. And then, but I do the recordings of them with the Black Magic camera, which has some really nice settings for recording time lapses with your phone's camera. But there's no like editing features that are really on it, like trimming your videos down. So I've been using that, and then I guess some people really like Fresco, which is a digital painting illustration app. I guess you can do some limited animation, and kind of like what you can do in Procreate. I've never really used it. It has like some natural media stuff that's kind of interesting. And it's also free. They gave that one away for free. So it works on tablets, works on your desktop. But I really haven't used it myself. I always feel kind of, it's kind of funny trying to make digital work look traditional. Why not just, learn how to ink and paint, with real media, analog media, as I like to call it. But they do have like their watercolor system in there, works pretty well. If you've ever used Fresco. The other thing too, I've noticed recently, I was talking to some people about that the other day, or yesterday, I guess. I was just pointing out the hard drive space comparison. So if you look at hard drive space that Adobe applications take versus some of these other ones, whether it's like Affinity or DaVinci Resolve or whatever, like the Adobe stuff takes up a lot of hard drive space. Try to bring up my settings. Go over to installed apps. I don't have all the Adobe stuff I had on here before, but you look at Adobe Photoshop here, and it takes up 5.27 gigs all by itself. Whereas if you look at Affinity, which combines Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign into one program, and it's free, it only takes up 1.46 gigabytes. So I think they combined, when I had them all on here, Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop, I think it was like 13-ish, 11 to 13 gigs or something. For all three. It's like, 10x the size, almost, of Affinity. But you can just do a straight comparison of Premiere Pro, which is 13.2 gigs on my machine here, to DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is just under 5. And I think for the most part it does pretty much everything Premiere Pro does that I needed to do at the very least. And it's free. There is a paid version that'll get you some other things, but I haven't looked at that. It's like $300, which, you know, compared to an Adobe subscription is, you know, pretty cheap overall. So, of course, you know, Blender is free. And I've also been running, actually, let's see if it's on here. It's pretty small, so. And sculpt, where is it? Probably be higher up. Just curious how that compares to it shows up on here. Seeing it on here in the lower category at the very least. I'm seeing that on there. Just sort of how that compares to ZBrush. I'm not seeing it on here. That's interesting. I guess how it installs, it just doesn't show up in there. But, you know, it's interesting just because Adobe, you know, they've been the leaders for so long, but all their programs have all this kind of bloat within it, which I think is a big problem. 15 more minutes, all right. It's a little slower this morning in terms of progress, but it's all right, I guess. We'll do the topology thing maybe next time, the final review of what I've done. And I think with the Affinity thing, it does pretty much, I think, everything Photoshop does. There might be some exceptions, but I don't know that those categories necessarily fall into things that I don't do. You can export PSDs out of it and import them in, you know, the usual file formats. The only file format I think it can't export is probably an InDesign one maybe, but also especially the Illustrator, the .ai, Adobe Illustrator format, because that's proprietary for Adobe. Usually with the proprietary formats like that, so like Affinity, they have their .af file format, which I guess is kind of funny. They played up that joke a little bit. But because it combines Publisher with the InDesign, Illustrator, Vectors, and Pixels Photoshop thing, they call it Publisher. They have 3 separate apps: Publisher, Designer, and Photo. Affinity Photo, Publisher, and Affinity Designer. They combine them all into one. But because you can work with all 3 at the exact same time, I think unless you start adding in artboards, they need their own proprietary format so it can, you know, open up that stuff properly. So they have their .af file type. But I've always wondered for a long time why, you know, Adobe never innovated into combining their, at least Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, because there are, you know, vector and pixel stuff between them, but they never combined them, which I always thought was strange. They never took that step. It just seemed like it was there. And that's, you know, not me not being a programmer or how the programs are built, but they were working for a long time on a version of Photoshop on the iPad, they released, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. This is just before like the AI stuff started really taking off, or they, them especially investing in it. Which I wish they hadn't, but oh well, here we are. But what their stated goal was basically to bring all the features of Photoshop into this iPad app, basically, and then kind of after they finished rebuilding it, to bring that to the desktop. And then ever since they've jumped into the whole AI race. They've frozen that development. I don't even know if they really updated the Photoshop on the iPad. And the thing, as far as the art pros go, I think the only thing you can't really replace in Adobe is a couple small things. One is the After Effects, which I don't use, so I don't really care about that, especially for compositing. There is some stuff going on with an application called Cavalry, which Canva bought, so it's part of kind of the Affinity family, which Canva is now, or Affinity is now with Canva, and then but it basically does like kind of some motion design, text and vector based animation, but it's not really a compositing program as far as I understand. But I don't really do that stuff. So, and then the other thing is kind of some of the Creative Cloud aspects. So like their font library that you get access to, other aspects of their Creative Cloud that interactive cloud-based updates and teamwork things that you can do with the cloud. So yeah, if you do want to switch over, you do need something like a font manager, and I've been using what's it called, Fontbase. For those that are interested in kind of shifting over, it's free, and one of the nice things it does is it's directly linked into Google, the Google fonts, and so if you want to install those fonts on your computer, you just go over there and find the font you want, and then activate it. It'll be on your computer. It does have to be on and running in the background for it to work. But that's kind of what you have to do in place of the Creative Cloud, where you would have different kinds of access. To those kinds of things. So After Effects and the Creative Cloud, everything else you can get elsewhere for free or for very little. So there's a little bit of learning curve and things like that, but it's not as bad as one might think. You spend a week or so, making something relevant that uses the tools you want to use, and you just kind of go through them to figure it out. So it's even like with this, I've got the past experience with ZBrush, and there's definitely some limitations here, but it does work really, really well. And I wanted to do a number of sculpts in here. I also want to maybe shift over to Nomad Sculpt. So maybe do another sculpt in this, and then do one over there, and then come back over here. Or maybe do a creature sculpt over there. I think that could be fun. It's got some interesting tools related to symmetry and what's the term? Curves over there in Nomad that are really, really handy to kind of work with. So, but I think there might be some tweaking next time, but I think the sculpt is basically effectively done. I think the main thing eyeballs are those large. I think the main thing next time we're going to do, we're going to retopologize it, and then project that retopology onto a fresh model. Put this detail onto a fresh model that's been retopologized, and do the final details. I'm practicing the retopology before I even get too far with that. I want to set up the UVs on it, and then that way I can do a paint up on it while I'm at it as part of the exercise. So next time we'll do the retopology, set up some UVs, and then go into the texturing and hopefully try to bring it to a finish. So anyway, that's it for this morning. I appreciate everybody that came in and communicated, and get close to being done with this little guy here. So I'm excited about that. And I'll talk to you all later.